What is up, Nickel City Mafia? Man, if you're new to the channel, please comment, like, and most importantly, drop a nickel on that subscribe button for us. We greatly appreciate it. We're going to get into the game here. Before we do, let me introduce this guy over here next to me, Mr. Jake Podger, right there just outside of Buffalo. How you doing today, Jake?
Never been better, Mike. I'm ready to go. My voice is a little hoarse. Yesterday, I was emceeing an event for charity, which was amazing, by the way. Great turnout. So if anyone's watching from that event, I know Uncle Jay said he was going to be joining. So if he's out there, shout out to you. I appreciate the heck out of you guys letting me do that event again. It was awesome. So, yeah, little hoarse on the voice. Did a little bit of drinking last night, Mike, but we're back. We're ready to go. And I have some people down in Baltimore right now giving me some updates. Looks like mid-50s right now. Not raining just yet, but some light winds.
Yeah, rain expected. We'll talk about that in a little bit. We also have two of our show's members, right? We have Chris and Rick are at the game today.
Yes.
They do our fantasy football show, and we have a huge bet on the line. If we lose this game, we have to wear some Raven gear next game or next show, and they have to wear some Bills gear if the Bills win. So we're hoping that we come through because honestly, I don't want to have to wear Raven gear. But Jake, unfortunately, you know my situation. My little 10-year-old, he is a Baltimore fan. He does have a Ravens helmet. So I'm sad if I have to pull that down. I don't have to go purchase something. And I'm pretty sure in that closet of yours of hundreds of jerseys, you might have a Ravens jersey in there.
I do. Yeah, I do. I have a Todd Heap jersey on the Ravens. So I was a big Todd Heap fan growing up. He was one of my favorite tight ends, one of my favorite players who played in the league. And I do have a Ravens jersey. So I don't want to have to wear it. I don't want to have to bring that out. I'm hoping we can ship the guys some Buffalo things, and Rick has to dig into your closet, Mike, and the whole shebang.
I've got a Kelly jersey for him. I won't let him wear the JA one. That
JA don't let him bring that.
This is the newer one, but yeah, I'll make him wear something old school. We'll go with
we don't want that losing Kelly energy in that jersey.
Let's see here. So Matthew, good to see you out there. Tom S, yeah, let's freaking go. And Tom, how you doing, man? We just did our giveaway. We were rushing around to get back on the show. That was a lot of fun. And Mike M, if you haven't seen it already,
congratulations, man. Whoever you are. Yes.
Let's see here. All right. So, Jake, we got a lot to get into. I mean, the Bills coming off that tough loss in Miami. And then, we don't need to get into it, but you saw what happened to Tua in that game against the Bengals. Just unfortunate. I hope and pray he's okay. But, now there's been a lot of speculation. It's like, should he have been back in the game after the Bills injury? We went live at halftime. We talked about this. We said there's no way he's out. There's no way, and we're not doctors, but we clearly could see that there's something physically wrong with this guy. And I know they have fired the doctor, I believe, the physician, whoever is responsible for saying he's okay to go back in. And, it's sad to see. But anyhow, I saw what happened to him. Prayers go out to him, and it's unfortunate. But thoughts on that real quick before we get into the show?
It's crazy. The crazy scenario. So when we went live at halftime last week, I'm like, there's not a chance this guy's playing, because you saw him walking off the field. I mean, I saw it in person. He did not look normal at all. And in Tua's situation, of course, you're going to say, I'm good to go. Like, as a football player, you never want to rule yourself out of a game. So it's a weird type of battle. There's some pressure from the player. There's pressure on the coaches. There's pressure on the team doctors. And obviously they made the wrong choice by putting him back into the game. I mean, Tua still looked pretty good after that, but that Bengals game, man, I mean, that was horrible to see and should have never happened to begin with, But again, it's like a weird type of situation. So I've kind of seen it because, like, being around the college game and stuff like that too. Like, you have these guys get injured who are putting their lives on the line for other people's livelihoods. As crazy as that sounds, these coaches' livelihoods. So there's like a weird type of pressure where you feel like you owe something to that team. Obviously, you want to still play as a competitor, but what's the right thing to do? I mean, he had clear signs of a major concussion. I mean, the guy couldn't walk straight. And the second you see that, I feel like even if he passes those neurological tests, which are kind of BS, to be honest, I mean, a lot of that is like reaction time, like going on an iPad, tapping dots and whatnot. And They say it's so advanced and whatnot. It's not that advanced, the concussion protocol. So, and there's like a kind of a gray area with all of it too. So, the right thing would have been to just rule him out in the Bills game last week. But of course, he comes back in, they win the game. The media is starting to buzz a little bit. Mike McDaniel's on the hot seat a little bit. And he's saying, he would never put someone in that type of situation. He had to have known a little bit there. And then, of course, this injury happens. Horrible situation in Cincinnati, obviously. And he goes down and his hands are like this, like they're like,
yeah,
he had no movement. And it looked like a pretty severe, brain injury. So it's a horrible situation. And even John Harbaugh, Ravens coach, came out and said he's never seen anything like it. And in all of his years of coaching, 40 years of coaching, he's never seen anything like it. So it's just a wild situation. But again, thoughts and prayers to Tua. Hopefully everything's good, and he'll come back at some point this season. But for now, the biggest priority is to make sure that he's healthy and he doesn't have any crazy brain damage or anything like that. Yeah, but there seems to be a little bit of scapegoating going on here too. Of course, they fire the team doc. I mean, it all looks so bad too. They fire the team doctor 2 days after this thing happens when maybe in the first place he should have never cleared him. So it's just a crazy situation.
Yeah, I totally agree. I'll tell you one thing is that any concussion going forward is going to be under the microscope. And for you to pass protocol and get back on the field, they're going to be extra cautious now, even more so with what happened. They should have already been doing that. But all right, well, prayers to him. And we want to see him back on the field sometime this year for sure.
Blake's my brother joined too, and he named the type of position that it was with his hands.
Okay.
I'm going to try to pronounce this. I'm not a doctor by any means. I'm a stooge. I'm as big of a stooge as there is, as Pat McAfee would say. He says never a good sign when he goes into the decorticate position. So that's what that's called, I guess.
Okay. All right, we have a question from Tom before we get into things, and he says, "Hey, question, you guys: would you rather win 4 Super Bowls in a row with Josh, but he gets traded next season, or never win a Super Bowl with Josh, but he retires as a Bill?" So I guess what he's saying, if we win 4 in a row with Josh,
and then he gets traded,
the season
so this
after
is like
that?
A Tom Brady scenario pretty much, except you're winning 4 in a row, of course. Obviously you got to take the Super Bowl wins. I would hate to lose Josh, but you'll always have those memories, and Josh was our guy during that time. So,
Yep. I'll take the Super Bowls as well. We've been waiting long enough.
Love that what if question though, Tom. Keep giving it to us.
Yeah. So let's start off, Jake. Tell us about the Bills went out and they found some folks on the wire available. Tell us who those 2 players were that we signed this week.
Yeah. So Xavier Rhodes, which I was super pumped about. I mean, this is a guy that's played under Leslie Frazier, plays extremely well in his own scheme defense, and he's thrived in that type of scheme. I mean, he's a 3-time Pro Bowler, 1-time All-Pro, actually played pretty well in Indianapolis over the last 2 years as well. And I'm super pumped about it, right? And then 2 days later, we find out this guy has a hamstring injury. So clearly, maybe he wasn't in full football shape, or maybe there were some underlying injury issues, which could be a reason as to why he wasn't signed. I know he wanted a little bit of money, but yeah, I mean, we just can't seem to get away from the bad luck with injuries. And it just boggles my mind, like how this happens. And then Justin Murray, the other guy we signed from Arizona, who has actually been pretty good. He's had some starts, I think 20 career starts. And actually our smallest right tackle in recent memory, only 6'5", Mike. I don't know if I like that. Maybe it's a good change, Maybe we need a shorter guy. 6'5", we're calling that short, which is crazy because we don't have a right tackle under the height of 6'8". But then he's on the injury report too for a hot second. I don't think he's it's a serious injury or anything like that. But obviously concerning with Xavier Rhodes. You didn't expect him to right away be on the injury report. I think you expected him to be starting in this game today, but now he got demoted basically back to the practice squad because we called him up from the practice squad, and he's got to wait 4 weeks before he can even play another game.
Yeah, that's absolutely crazy. We were talking about this with Sean as well, and I'm like, we needed him now. That was the whole reason we brought him on. And it's just crazy to me. And just so you know, I've been waiting to see what we actually paid Xavier Rhodes. What do you think that contract is, Jake?
I didn't see the numbers on it. I'm going to say it's so he's 32. I want to say it's a 1 year, $5 million contract.
Okay, and he's a 3-time Pro Bowler. And
Mm-hmm.
so, believe it or not, we signed him for $358,000.
Whew, that's the
That's
veteran minimum right there.
that's a steal. That's a steal
Wow.
for Xavier Rhodes. I'm not sure why he was still available. I mean, I know he had some injuries last year. He played for the Colts the last couple seasons.
Yep.
He's been a starter for most of his career. Like I said, we already said 3-time Pro Bowler. So surprised that he was still available. I was super excited as well. But to hear that he's out now for 4 games, I mean, that's a disappointment. But hey,
It's terrible.
when he is back, it's just another depth piece, and veteran leadership. I don't expect him to start over our young corners when he does come back. I don't know what you
He's
think
going to
about
be,
that.
yeah, I think he'll be a rotational guy for sure, especially after being injured with a hamstring issue. I mean, that's going to take him a little bit to get back up and running, even once he is deemed healthy. So it's going to be interesting to see how they kind of rotate those guys. But I am thinking down the future. I mean, we're going to have Trey White back. Dane Jackson's going to play today, which is great news. Christian Benford should be back. He's been playing unbelievably as a 6th-round pick. And then Xavier Rhodes coming back into town here. We got Kyer Elam, who really has stepped his game up quite a bit. Only allowed 2 catches for 10 yards last week, which is awesome to see. And by the way, Xavier Rhodes, bigger corner. He's 6'1", 210. So you love seeing that. He's got good size. He could still run a little bit too. But obviously a little bit of concern having a hamstring issue, especially this late in your career.
Yeah. Very surprising. So let's get into the injury report. We don't know the actual actives. I mean, they usually release it about an hour before the game. I'm not sure maybe we'll still be on and we can kind of give some updates. But as of yesterday, late last night, I even looked this morning. This is what was coming off the Bills site here. So Ed Oliver's questionable. It'd be super, super huge to have him back against Lamar Jackson. Let's just fingers crossed on that one. And again, if you've heard any updates or anyone in the channel about you feeling good about them playing or that you've heard that they are going to play, then let us know as well. Dawson Knox is questionable. He was limited in practice all week. So is Ed Oliver. Knox seems to be playing through that foot injury, whatever's been going on with him. So I do expect him out there. Jordan Phillips, as we know, is out. Jordan Poyer's questionable. He's been limited in practice all week. He was limited last week too, and he surprised me to be out of that game. So I'm not sure. Have you heard anything on Poyer, Jake?
I haven't heard a word. I was asking you earlier, Mike, like, is he in or is he out? What's the deal here? So I'm not really sure what's going to happen there. And I was very taken by surprise with that one because he played so well in that Titans game. And, the press conference after that, he was talking about these other players that got injured being Micah Hyde and Dane Jackson, and he didn't mention, I mean, obviously you're not going to talk about an injury that you have, but it was just so weird how it kind of happened. And then you see a foot injury. I mean, man, do we need a new foot doctor or something like that? I know we have a store here called the Good Feet Store. Maybe they need to get properly fitted or something for their cleats. I don't know what's going on, but I don't like it. A lot of foot injuries.
Yeah. So let's hope Poyer is back because Lamar Jackson, we're going to get into some stats here. He's been doing it both with his feet and his arm. So we need all that help back there in the backfield there. So let's go. Ryan Bates, he actually had a concussion. So as we talked about right off the start of the show, concussions are going to be under a larger or closer microscope than ever. He was a full practice on Friday, so I would imagine he's trending towards playing. So that's an interesting one there. Christian Benford, we know, is out 3 to 6 weeks with a fractured hand. Gabe Davis, he was limited in practice on Wednesday and Friday. He did not practice on Thursday. I saw something. Again, I can't remember the source. It looks like he's trending like he is going to play.
Gabe said he is playing.
Okay, good.
So that's great news. Now, He played last week, and you could tell he still didn't look super healthy.
Yep.
But he definitely made an impact. He went up and made that one really nice catch and should have had a touchdown as well.
Yeah, definitely. And then Dion Dawkins was dealing with an illness. He was limited in practice. Actually, he did not practice on Wednesday, but he was a full practice both Thursday and Friday. So expect to see him in there. Dane Jackson was limited in practice. This is an interesting one with that horrendous injury or what happened.
Almost decapitated on the field.
It's great to see him even out there. So it'll be interesting to see what he ends up. Did you hear anything on Dane?
It sounds like he's going to play. They didn't list it. They have their 5 corners that are active right now, Dane Jackson being one of them. So it looks like he's going to play. That's what all signs are pointing to.
All right. And then we got, we know Kumaro's out. He didn't practice all week. Cam Lewis was full practice on Friday. Not sure what's going on with Cam because last week when Benford went out, they brought in Ingram, Jamarcus Ingram, right? Is that the name? I think I got it
Yep,
right
that's
there.
right.
And I was like, where's Cam? Because Cam, Cam's been with us for a while now. At one point, he almost worked his way into a starting corner. And
Yeah.
I thought he did very well in training camp. So to not see him, there's some lingering injury. There has to be, I would think.
Yeah, I am curious about that too, because I definitely thought I'd see more of him, and it was all Jamarcus Ingram when Christian Benford went out. So it was curious to see, definitely. But I mean, I expect him to still contribute on specials. Of course, he's pretty good on that. But I was pretty surprised by that too, Mike. Definitely pretty interesting. I'm looking to see if they updated anything too, and I'm not seeing much here.
Yeah.
So
Probably gonna have to wait to closer till 9, or I'm
yeah,
saying 9 my time, which is noon your time. Von Miller, he's just had some rest. Mitch Morse, this is a big one for us. I would love and I hope that Mitch Morse is back. He missed last week after having that elbow injury in the Titan game. He actually came back in that game after injuring the elbow and played the rest of the game. I was surprised to see him miss this past week, but hopefully he's back there, captain of that offensive line. We need him. I mean, Van Roten did an okay job, but him and Josh, you could tell they're just out of sync, him and Van Roten.
Yeah.
I don't know why that is. You would think they're practicing and getting that worked out. But, yeah, to have Morse back there would be huge for this game. Justin Murray, as you said, one of the other guys that we signed this week, he's also questionable. So we signed these two guys, and one's going to miss 4 weeks, and the other one's questionable. We signed them to bring him on now to get him to play in this. If it wasn't this week, for sure next week. And Rhodes is out for 4 weeks. It's crazy. Saffold was just vet rest, and Diggs was vet rest. So, again, we'll have to wait and see these questionable ones if they're actually active. I think most that I saw here that are questionable are trending in the right direction, but we'll know more in about, 30, 40 minutes. Let's move on.
Yeah, and remember, too,
sorry.
we get Bobby Hart back today, Mike. So he's
that's
off
true.
his 1-game suspension, so that's nice, too. It's a nice, veteran piece to bring back, and he's been playing better, too, so that's always good to see.
So for the Ravens, not quite the injury list that we do, but they got some key folks out there. They got Justin Houston. He's doubtful. I doubt that he's out there. He'll play today with a groin.
Yeah.
Patrick McCarry, their offensive tackle, he is doubtful as well. He's their starting offensive tackle. Marcus Peters has been playing. So Marcus Peters came back this year from a torn ACL. He played in week 2 and 3, and he's still just getting back up to speed. And I got a great question for you. When I show you some numbers on their defense has just been awful. But they have some really big names back there, and we'll talk about that a little bit. But I think some of it has to do with that Peters just isn't back to where you would expect him to be. He's still recovering. It's kind of like the same thing we're going to deal with when Trey White comes out. You can't just expect him to be Trey White of old prior to that injury. It's going to take him a little bit of time to get back there. Michael Pierce, let's see, did not practice. Again, they don't have any game status. The other big one, this is a huge one for them, okay, because if McCarry is out and Stanley, who is also coming back from injury from last year, he hasn't played this year, but if Stanley is in, that's huge for them because I don't know if you saw the game last week, if you rewatched it all against the Ravens, against the Patriots. They have a guy named, let me give you his name here. Where is it?
They have Morgan Moses and Daniel Falele.
Falele is who I was thinking about. Daniel Falele.
Yep.
Number 77. The guy was in the game. Big dude.
Yeah.
Slow as heck. Looked awkward, and he was being taken advantage of. They did clean it up a little bit as the game went on, but if they have to go with him against the likes of a Von Miller, definitely an opportunity.
Oh, it's a mismatch for sure. Von is too fast, and Daniel Falele. You want to take a guess at his height and weight, Mike? I know this because he's one of the biggest players. I think he is officially the biggest player in the league.
All right, since you said that, I'm gonna go with
in terms of like the combo height and weight.
Okay. I'm gonna say 6'9", and I'm gonna say 360.
So he's 6'8". So he's not actually the tallest player, but he's 6'8", 380.
Holy cow!
That's a mammoth of a human being. That reminds me of a former Bill named Aaron Gibson. I don't know if you guys remember that name, but he was a monster. I think he got up to 400 something in his playing career, And he was just a mauler back in the day. He didn't play a ton. He was more of a rotational guy, but he was with the Cowboys a little bit too. And man, that's a big boy right there.
Big boy, but I mean, yeah, so that's an area for us. Keep an eye on that, because I'll tell you what was his name? Dietrich Wise from New England was having his way. Having his way, and I can only imagine what Von Miller would do.
Oh my gosh,
or even Rousseau. So,
yep.
Let's hear, before we move on to the next slide here, let's talk about Tom. Looks like he's got some other good stuff for us. Part 1 of 2. So I consider myself a newer Bills fan, though I lived in the Buffalo area my entire life. I started gaining interest when Ryan Fitzpatrick had that amazing year, the big contract, then played. And then he says, part 2, I got really interested in the Bills with Tyrod and full support in 2018. My question is, other than Allen, Kelly, and Flutie, who was Buffalo's best quarterback? And
Jack Kemp, Joe Ferguson.
If you go way back then, yeah, for sure. You got to say Kemp
Joe Ferguson
and Ferguson. But
yeah,
if you look at Ferguson's numbers, he wasn't stellar. But
you go back to the 60s and 70s, Mike. You look at like the touchdown to interception ratio. It is mind-boggling. And you look at like guys that are Hall of Famers, Terry Bradshaw, Joe Namath, just to name a couple. The touchdown to interception ratio, they have a lot more picks than touchdowns in their career. I think Terry Bradshaw is like 212 and 210. So he's super close. And I know Joe Namath threw more picks than touchdowns. So you go back, I mean, obviously different era. The passing game has developed so much now that there's a lot more high percentage passes. The short passing game is a lot bigger now. They used to sort of just take shots downfield back in the day. And then obviously the physicality of the game has changed a little bit. You could freaking tackle the receivers, back in the day. So it's a little bit different back then. So you can't really put too much stock into that. But yeah, I would say probably Joe Ferguson would be my guy. I like Jack Kemp a lot. Obviously, it was not even a thought back in those days. My dad was a young kid at that time. But yeah, I would say him. I think Ryan Fitzpatrick does have an argument. He was actually, I think he had the record for most passing yards in a season. Or no, Drew Bledsoe did. I'm sorry. But Fitzy was like third all time in regular season passing yards for the Bills in a single season up until Josh came. So kind of cool. He had a couple nice years with us and obviously gave us a chance to win. So love Fitzy, man. He's just one of the best.
Now, we also had, believe it or not, if my memory serves me right, Daryl LaMonica back in the day. And Daryl LaMonica went on to win.
He's an MVP.
Right? Didn't he win a Super Bowl with the Raiders, I want to say? Mm-hmm. I think he did, yeah.
Yep.
So we had Daryl LaMonica. And now Kemp was the starter there, but yeah, LaMonica was a guy who won a Super Bowl winner there. So I'd have to put his name there as well. I am surprised, Jake, you're not throwing out your boy JP Lossman. I mean,
I love JP, man. He had the talent, just the mental aspect of it. I feel like he got into his own head a little too much and kind of ruined his career a little bit. And it's interesting. He was in the news back in 2020 saying that teams were contacting him to be a potential backup quarterback, which is wild to think about that. I know he played in the UFL a little bit. I think he got into coaching after that. But yeah, JP Lossman, great honorable mention. Had one pretty good year in 2006, I believe it was, where he threw for like just over 3,000 yards, 19 touchdowns, like 14 picks. But yeah, what's Uncle Jay saying? Uncle Jay,
this is
welcome
awesome.
back, by the way. When Kemp ran for Congress, someone once told him, and any bill he tried to pass would be intercepted. That's pretty good. I love that. Nice.
Love it. And then we got Mama Padre out there.
Yeah,
guys from
Mom,
St.
thanks
Pete's.
for joining. Tell Dad I'm sorry I missed his call. We did our giveaway show prior to this, and also I had to put Maxie down for a nap. She was a little upset, so I had to put her down for a nap, so I wasn't able to answer. But yeah, my parents are in St. Pete's right now. They're at a Bill's Backer Bar. They're going on a cruise as well, too, Mike. So they're living their best life right now.
Awesome. I did get an update from Rick, who's at the game. He's saying, I asked him, how's the weather? He says, no rain as of yet, but chilly. So I checked the forecast. I did check the hourly forecast. It is expected to be raining during that game and almost the whole game, which I believe is on the next slide that we have. So weather, yep, raining most of the game, according to the last report that I looked at. We do have some folks on the ground there, so Jake and I, until the end of the show, will be giving you updates, but I do expect rain as well. Let's see here. Let me
I'm putting in a question, too. By the way, guys, we have a Discord channel, so if you haven't joined that, it's a really fun thing. We have a Bills channel. We have fantasy football. Then we have a DraftKings and DFS daily fantasy I forget what that stands for. DFS Jags,
Daily Fantasy Sports.
Sports. Thank
And
you.
then
Yes.
and the Jags just means just a couple of guys.
I love that. That's awesome. Yeah. So we have a couple of different segments in there. And if you guys are, if you're feeling up to it, definitely join that Discord. I just put a comment in there too to Rick. I said, what's the ratio of Bills to Ravens fans? Because I know the Bills fans traveled pretty well down to Baltimore. I know a lot of people that went down there. So curious to see what he says.
So Rick is a Ravens fan, just like we said. So was Chris. And he said in the channel, Bills Mafia invading Baltimore right now. Invading. I saw someone post on one of the groups that I listen to is that Baltimore fans don't like the rain. They're selling off their tickets cheap. I doubt that that's true, but anyhow, Bills Mafia always travels well. We traveled well. You were at the game last week at Hard Rock in Miami, and you saw a ton of Bills fans. So you said
it was 60-40. I'm telling you, 60-40 Bills to Dolphins fans. It was crazy. We actually went to a tailgate that was put on by fans of Buffalo. They do a great charter. So if you're a Bills fan and you're looking to go to an away game, so we didn't go through them, but we found out so much, like a ton of, good reviews and stuff, basically saying, so they set everything up from your flights to your tickets to your hotel. And we were talking to a couple. So they booked this back in May and they went to the Dolphins game and we met them up there at the tailgate and whatnot. And they were saying that they paid $900 a person. And that included 3 nights at a hotel, your flights and your tickets. And they sat in the 200 levels. So I thought that was a smoking deal, to be honest. I mean, you're talking flights alone, probably around $400 to fly from Buffalo to Miami or Buffalo. We flew into Sarasota, but yeah, pretty wild. So fans of Buffalo, check them out. They handle everything and they sounds like they do a pretty good job. I mean, they had travel. They had the travel thing booked too for shuttles going to the tailgate. They had food at the tailgate for you. So just a really cool thing that they do.
Awesome. Yeah, let's get into some numbers here. So these two offenses, what a week 4 matchup. I mean, not only do we have 2 MVP candidates, but just look at these numbers on offense. On the Bills side, we're putting up 30.3 points per game. We're ranked 3rd. We've got 9 passing touchdowns, which is ranked 2nd. We have 329 passing yards per game. That's ranked number 1. We have 112.3 rushing yards per game. That's ranked 15. Most of that, as we know, is probably Josh Allen, which is unfortunate. We need to correct that. But look at the Ravens side of the ball here. They're averaging 33 points per game, ranked number 1. 10 passing touchdowns, ranked number 1. 245 passing yards per game, that's 13th. And they have 135.3 rushing yards per game, ranked 8th. And I can see the same thing on this side as well. A lot of that is Lamar Jackson. And we're going to show I got about a 2-minute film of Lamar that we're going to get into before we talk about our key matchups. We'll show that in a little bit. But Jake, talk to me about these offenses, man. I mean, the rain could change some of this, but we see some fireworks today.
Oh, we definitely can. And I expect to see it. I know we got the rain and everyone thinks it's just going to be one of those games where it's just a running game. But honestly, both of these teams, the Ravens have always been known as that ground and pound team. Their second leading rusher on the team, I believe it's 80 yards. So you're talking Lamar with 2-something, and then their second leading rusher who's a running back. I'm not even sure who it is. Is it J.K. Dobbins or Justice Hill? I think J.K. Dobbins only has like 23 yards this year. But yeah, usually you're talking about, all the different running backs that they have. And Lamar obviously is a key element to that too. He had over 1,000 yards, 2 straight seasons. But it's all Lamar this year. I mean, he has been that entire offense, and they live and die by the deep ball too. So their 2 receivers, Rashad Bateman and Devin Duvernay, I think they're averaging over 20 yards a catch each, which is crazy. I'm going to look that up right now just to confirm. But
yeah, they don't have a lot of catches, but when they do, they are big, and we'll show some of those in the clips that I have here.
Yeah, so Rashad Bateman, 8 for 226, 28.3 yards a catch. That's wild. I mean, that's bananas. And then you have Devin Duvernay, so he's at 15.1 yards a catch, which is still pretty high for his average. Yeah. And then you have Mark Andrews, so he's going to work the middle of the field a little bit. He's Mr. Reliable. That's the guy Lamar is going to target when he needs a first down on 3rd down or something like that. So like I said, they sort of live and die by a different breed of football. They're usually reliant on that ground and pound. It's been all on Lamar's shoulders this year, and he's playing for a contract. He's betting on himself. I know a lot of people have been saying that, so I'm just going to reiterate what they've been saying because it's true. I mean, the guy is representing himself. He's playing for a max contract, and if the Ravens aren't going to give it to him, some other team will because he is my number one MVP candidate, even over Josh right now. So I think there's going to be some fireworks, Mike. I know there's going to be a little bit of rain, but the Bills, I'll tell you what, we're going to take advantage of that secondary that they have. On paper, they look great, but they have not looked good on the field. So I think Stephon Diggs is in for a big game as well.
Yeah, I have the next slide. We'll talk about their defense. And I will say this. So I think Lamar is going to get a little more help as the year goes on. J.K. Dobbins is coming off a huge injury last year, missed the entire year, right? And he's been being worked in slowly. So I think that'll just continue to go in a positive direction and relieve a little bit, take a little bit off of Lamar's plate. But I mean, yeah, Lamar, like you said, he's playing for not only to win, he's playing for a huge contract. Let's take a look at the defense real quick. Now here is, like you said, on paper they look stellar, but when you look at the actual stats, you're like, oh my God, Josh Allen and the guys should just have a feast. Let's look at the Bills side first. 12.7 points per game. That is ranked fourth. It's hard to believe there are 3 other teams that have given up fewer than 12 points per game. Josh,
that's crazy.
Right? 214 total yards per game. Bills ranked number 1 there. 156.3 passing yards per game they're giving up. They're ranked number 2. And they're only giving up 57.7 rushing yards per game, ranked number 2. So this is what you want to see. It's crazy that we've been able to do this with all the injuries on that defense. But this is what you want to see, this type of defense, because you're going against a team that runs the ball really well with Lamar, and Lamar can throw as well. So love that. But now let's look on the side of the Ravens, and it just doesn't. You're going to have to help me here and tell me what's going on with that secondary that they have, because they have some big names back there. They're giving up 25.7 points per game, ranked 25th. They're giving up 458 total yards per game, Jake. That's dead last.
Yeah.
They're giving up 353.3 passing yards per game, ranked last, and they're giving up 104 rushing yards per game, ranked 14th. How's that possible when you got the likes of Marcus Peters? Now, we did say Marcus Peters is also coming off a torn ACL last year, so he's been working his way back in. But they also have Humphrey. I mean, talk to me about that secondary. And if I looked at PFF, they give that secondary like glowing reviews, which is crazy. I don't know what's going on with PFF this year, but talk to me. How can this be?
Yeah, it is crazy, because I think on paper heading into the season, the Ravens, I would have picked to have the best secondary in the NFL. I mean, you're talking about drafting Kyle Hamilton in the first round. You have Chuck Clark still. I know he's demanding a trade. Marcus Williams, which is by far one of the top signings in free agency. Brandon Stevens, who's a pretty good young corner there too. You got Marlon Humphrey, who's one of the best slot corners in the league, and Marcus Peters, again, like we mentioned. I mean, he's a proven vet. And it just hasn't happened this year for them. I don't know what the deal is. I think they're missing Wink Martindale a little bit, to be honest with you. They got a new defensive coordinator and Mike McDonald. And, I think they're missing him a lot. I don't know if it's just a lack of pressure up front, too. I think they put a little bit more on the shoulders of that secondary, because they just don't really seem to have a pass rush either. They still have Calais Campbell. They still have some dogs up front, but they just haven't been able to get there. So it's really interesting to see. This is a team, a franchise that has really been built on their defense throughout their entire history. And it's wild to see these numbers right now. I mean, you think 2000 Ravens only allowing 10 points a game or whatever it was, minimal yardage. They're ranked dead last in total yards per game allowed. Now, I know that it's a little bit of inflation there with Tua, but also they allowed over 300 passing yards to Joe Flacco in week 1. And Joe Flacco, listen, he's earned his flowers. He's done a great job throughout his career, won the Ravens the Super Bowl, but by no means is he an elite quarterback anymore. And was he ever an elite quarterback? That's a great question. We could table that for another time. We could talk to Rick and Chris about that one. But anyways, yeah, it's wild to see these numbers. It's glaring, and I think it's something that the Bills are they're gonna exploit the hell out of it. I think Ken Dorsey's gonna have a rebound game. There were a couple questionable play calls last game, so I think we just hit the ground running and throw the hell out of the football. I think it was Rick. He said just throw the football. Yeah. So even if there's rain, Josh Allen has the hands. He can do it. He's got big hands. That's why we drafted him. Looks great in shorts. So just sling the rock all day, baby.
Yeah, I think you touched on it. One of the big reasons is they just haven't been getting after the quarterback enough. I mean, we talk about that on our side, that's helping this young secondary that we have, right?
Oh, yeah.
Getting that pressure on those quarterbacks, I mean, everything else is going to look better. And they're not getting there, which I think is hurting the secondary, obviously. because these guys are too good in that secondary. Like you said, Marcus Peters, all these other really good folks, talented folks. But, again, Marcus Peters getting better game after game. I'm sure they'll turn that around at some point. Hopefully not this week. But these are huge. This is a huge area that we should be able to take advantage. Absolutely, 100%. So let's get into one more slide I got here. The MVP talk, right? These two have to be at the top of your list for MVP. As long as, I'm not saying these are the only two, but since this is the game we're talking about, these are the two. The Patrick Mahomes, sure, absolutely. Jake, you might have another one. I thought initially at the beginning of the year, Herbert would be in that conversation. He may still be, but he's been dealing with some injuries.
Banged up.
Been a little rough the first few weeks for him. But these two have to be near the top of your list. Josh Allen. He's put up 1,014 passing yards, 113 rushing yards. He got 10 total touchdowns. His completion percentage is 71.2%. He's thrown 2 picks, and his quarterback rating is 77.5. Lamar Jackson on the other side, 749 passing yards, 243 rushing yards, total touchdowns 12. His completion percentage is 63.6. He's thrown 2 picks. He has a higher quarterback rating. And I don't know all the math. There's 2 quarterback rating systems out there. It's the one that you see guys with over 100 all the time. And then I think ESPN came out with a better one that is a little more accurate. I don't know all the calculations that's done, because if you look at this, you're like, all right, Lamar's got a little more rushing yards, but he's got less on the passing yards. He's got 2 more TDs. His completion percentage is lower. How is he rated higher? And it's not by much. But anyhow.
So they look at efficiency with that. I think it's not just factoring the completion percentage and yardage and all that good stuff. They look at like the passing efficiency on like first down and all that good stuff. There's a lot that goes into that formula. It's kind of crazy. Whereas the regular passer rating, there is a formula for it that's somewhere. You can find it online.
Yeah.
I used to make up my own. Like we used to write stats down when we played football out in front. People get so ticked off at me because they're like, how do I have a 112 point whatever rating? I'm like, well, you take the yards, you add the touchdowns, you divide it by this. But there is a legitimate formula for it. It's wild. So, yeah, most of the time you're looking at that general quarterback rating. But the QBR thing, that's a newer thing that ESPN introduced like 10 or so years ago.
Yeah, this is a game, obviously, with these two talents that should be easily Sunday Night Football or Monday Night Football, right? If the schedule makers could go back in time and see the future, like you've been able to see the future in the past, if they could see the future, they would have put this on prime time. Absolutely. This is incredible. You talked about it with Lamar. He's in that contract year. The guy loves to win. The guy can extend. I'm going to show you some video here in a little bit. He can extend plays just like Josh can, but the difference with the running aspect from Lamar is that he can take it to the house. He can go 75, 79 yards. I have one of those plays in the clip. It's unreal. And then you got Josh Allen, who, oh my goodness, you saw that game last week, doing everything in his will and his power to try to get us that victory, taking on big linemen. I think you and Sean showed some film the other night of him taking on a 300.
Oh my gosh, Zach Seiler. Yeah, he threw. Just shedding a tackle like it's nothing. That's a grown-ass man coming at you. That's 6'6", 320, and he's shedding that tackle like it's nothing on 4th and 2 to get a first down. And again, he did it on another play too. Josh is he really is a next-level quarterback. And I'm not even being a homer here. You just break down the film. I looked at some of his throws he made last week, and now everyone highlights the missed opportunity, the one he threw into the dirt to Isaiah McKenzie that could have won them the game. There were a couple other throws that could have been interceptions. And yeah, he was forcing a few, and I think he was just ticked off. And that's sometimes where he lacks a little bit, where he gets kind of a little too into his own head and he tries to take over too much. But the sugar high Josh Allen stuff, I think we need to put that to rest, because I'll tell you this, I think he showed a lot of composure with all the blitzes they were sending. He did a tremendous job of taking what the defense gave him. And some of the throws he made, couple highlights. The Isaiah McKenzie throw on 3rd down was incredible. That was like unbelievable, pinpoint. And it was actually decent coverage. So for him to make that throw was just unreal. Off his back foot too. It's just insane. And then there was another throw to Quentin Morris. Not a good tape film throw or anything like that. But again, very awkward looking throw, kind of sidearms it and gets Quentin Morris on the smash concept. That was just incredible. So anyways, Uncle Jay says, you better hope your wife doesn't use that rating system. Yeah, I don't know what she'd have me at. It's probably not very good.
All All right, let's look at some film here, Jake. And you're the XNO guy, but I'm going to show you some highlights from both Lamar against the Dolphins and then Lamar against the Patriots last week here. And here's where he's just going to use one of his speedy receivers. This is something, even though they don't have a lot of catches on the year, I think Jake mentioned it. Mark Andrews is clearly is his favorite target. He's been for years. But these two guys, you're going to have to keep an eye on because they can do this. Let me roll the film here. So let me pause it there. Nice little slant, gone. Bateman
Quick
can
slant
take
to
it
the
to the house. Both their receivers can take it to the house. So you got a lot of speed out there. And again, they're young. And
it's kind of similar, Mike. It's kind of similar to last week. You think about the receivers that they have. Obviously, I don't think they're quite as fast as Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill, but they're right there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we forgot to mention is they don't have Marquise Brown anymore. They traded him away during the draft. But these two young guys they have, and of course, he relies on this guy right here.
The pre-snap motion is something to watch too.
So you see his big guy right there. Both. Let me show you something over here. And what I like about this, check this out. Let me show you something here. I think I could do this. Yes, over here. Look at this. We're going professional right now. We can draw
very nice.
All right. So you got Mark Andrews. You got their other tight end on the left there. He loves the tight ends, and he actually threw a touchdown too, number 84, last week in the game. But let me roll this a little bit more. You'll see what happens here.
So the other tight end, so they have a couple tight ends, Mike. They not only have, so they have Mark Andrews, they also have Isaiah Likely, who's a rookie out of Coastal Carolina. He's a hell of an athlete. And the best thing with him is the memes that all came out because he's wearing number 80. So everyone puts, how many beers are you going to consume this weekend? And they put his jersey up and it says Likely 80, which is the best. But he's a guy to look out for too.
Yeah, so this is where Lamar is just very scary. Take a look at this play right here. I'm going to slow it down here in a little bit after the snap. All right. So talk to me. Let's talk to the fans about the type of offense that they run with Lamar.
Yeah, it looks like a heavy package. Looks like they have an eligible tackle there. It looked like 3 on that side, if I'm correct. Yeah. So you got 3 tackles. You see there's an eligible tackle on it would be the left side if we're looking at the screen here. And it's going to be an option play. And this is where Lamar gets really dangerous. And he's so good at it because he waits till last second. I mean, he does it perfectly.
Yeah, so let's watch it here.
Yep.
Okay.
And then he's got a lead blocker here.
You can see these guys have kind of bit on this guy over here.
Yep.
Right. And this guy kind of sees it, but it's too late. Let me show you what happens here. And you can see all the guys that they have at the line of scrimmage. There's not much back there. What do they got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 guys within 5 yards. I mean, there's not. If Lamar gets past this, he's gone. Let's see what happens here. And there he goes.
To the house. This is what, 70 some odd yards, 76 yards?
Yep.
Yeah. Or 75 yards, I think it was.
It was plus 70. Let's put it that way.
Man.
All right, so just scary good. Now here's this game against. I want to show you some plays where he, like Josh Allen, can extend plays. So let's take it. Let's watch this one here.
So obviously the approach with this is you don't want to get sucked in too much. You got to play contain. That's your first thought. So if you need to hit Lamar on that running back every play, you can just do what you got to do.
So actually, I think this is where he again they love to run this play. Lamar will take it just like a running back. And, that's what, 6 yards right there. Here's the play here I wanted to show you where he can extend the play. Now, I'm going to pause it here because I'm trying to see. I think 65 was playing tackle. Now, walk. You think this play is over, right? This play is dead. Nope.
Yeah.
Now, Mark Andrews does not make this catch, but 9 out of 10 times Mark Andrews will make this catch.
That's tremendous by Lamar.
Now on this play here, again, extends the play.
Gosh, he's so fast.
Yeah, let me go back a little bit on that one. I want to, once again here, this play. I mean, he's dead to right
Jeez.
here. You have to continue.
And that's
this
good.
guy.
That's great pressure by New England.
Yeah.
It's just he's just that good. I mean, he can extend the play. He can make things happen when it doesn't look like, he can make a 12-yard loss look like this. It's crazy. A supposed to be 12-yard loss, he could turn it into a 10-yard game. It's nuts.
Exactly.
Again,
Mark
a
Andrews
lot of
again. This whole drive that I caught a lot of this footage was Mark Andrews. It was the Mark Andrews game. I think he had like 13 targets, something crazy.
Yeah,
like
he had
that
a monster day. Definitely helping the fantasy team. I could tell you that.
So there we are again. Talk to me about who you think is going to be covering this guy Andrews out there today. Who's going to get that responsibility?
I like lining up a bigger guy on him. It's very intriguing. You have a guy that could play press and Kyer Elam, but he's not necessarily a slot guy. Taron Johnson did a really good job against the Ravens in the playoffs. Or do you put a guy like Matt Milano on him? I think Matt Milano has proven that he can play extremely well in coverage, and he dropped a pick 6 last week, of course, so he wants to get a little redemption there. So I think you line a bigger guy up on him. You maybe even talk about bringing Saran Neal into the game. He did a really good job against Travis Kelce last year. And that was a great game plan, I thought, because you shut down the guy that your offense runs through. This is Mr. Reliable. This is the guy that makes all those catches, the guy that Lamar's going to look to first. Devin Duvernay and Rashad Bateman, those are deep threat guys. Those are guys that are going to extend the play. They're almost like the guys that maybe you throw a quick slant to, you hope take the distance, or you're throwing deep. So Mark Andrews gives you that option to throw short passes. He can still stretch the field. He gets open in the middle of the field. But if you jam him and really make him work for it, I think that is definitely a key to victory. So I would like to see a bigger body guy like Matt Milano or Saran Neal jam him at the line.
Do you think he gets help? Do you think Taron Johnson maybe helps him out a bit?
I think there will be a little bit of that. Yeah, I'm curious to see what schemes they use. They also have DeMarcus Robinson too, who's a bigger receiver. He'll be playing in the slot for them. And obviously we'll see Taron in the slot playing against him most likely. So yeah, it'll be, I'm very curious to see what they do with that.
Yeah, let me bring this down real quick. All right, let's continue on with this. So on this one, again, this is just a great catch by Mark Andrews.
Yeah.
This is this is a tight end, mind you.
Yep.
This is a tight end making catches like that. And again, this whole drive was the Mark Andrews show.
The Ravens have a lot of success finding these tight ends, man. They really do. Started with Todd Heap. They had Shannon Sharp, too, when they won the Super Bowl.
Now, here's where I was telling you that I think 77 was in the game. I'm not gonna try to butcher his name. Maybe you can help me out again.
Oh, Daniel Falele? Yeah.
Let me just double.
Yeah, let's take a look at that. Let's go back to that.
Yeah. Actually, I think that is him out on the left.
Yeah, he should be playing left tackle. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
This looks like him. So let's run this here.
Whew, cooked.
Yeah, I mean, big guy. He's just getting beat easily.
Yeah, he's already lost the battle there.
And there.
And then you have Lamar. Yeah, who still almost got out of that.
And then if you've been throwing it all drive to Mr. Andrews, why not finish it up with him?
And that's something too. I mean, the thing is, the contain is so huge here because just not allowing Lamar to get outside like that, forcing him to cut it up in the middle, I think that's where our D tackles are going to take advantage of that interior O-line, and that's where we can really make a statement. So containing him is huge. Making him, if he's going to run the football, make him run it up the middle. Don't let him get outside, and don't let him get in the open field either.
Uncle Jay is saying, being that the quarterbacks are so similar, do you think both defense will be able to contain based on their similar tendencies?
I think the Bills can. I think we have the athleticism outside to do it, but the Ravens, I think, are going to struggle a little bit. Again, they don't have much of a pass rush, and they've been really struggling to contain guys and to register those sacks, to register those big plays in the backfield. So I feel like Josh is just going to have a heyday today. I really do.
So talk to me a little bit, Jake, about your concerns about the rain. It's going to rain. I'm almost...
Yeah, it looks very likely. Looks very Isaiah likely that it's going to rain.
So whose advantage is that? To me, it's obviously the running game of the Ravens, but talk to me
Yeah.
about your concerns with the rain.
Yeah, well, obviously things get slippery out there, and with Lamar just being the electric player that he is, I mean, he can definitely cut loose. And I think he's a little bit different than Josh. They're both great running quarterbacks, but Josh is more of that power guy. He's more of a guy that's not really necessarily looking to run right away. When he gets outside of the pocket, then he'll take off here and there. But Josh is more of a guy that's like he's just a bigger guy, so he's running through you. Where Lamar, you got to look out for him because you have to respect their running game. Even though their second leading rusher only has 80 yards, they have so many different backs that they can utilize. They have Kenyon Drake, they have Justice Hill, they have J.K. Dobbins. So 3 guys right there that you have to pay attention to. And then you have Lamar himself. And Lamar is so damn fast and he's so slippery, especially if it's rainy like this. I mean, that is definitely in the Ravens' favor for sure. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if we can run the football today a little bit. I know we've been talking about it the entire week, like how we lack an actual running game and something that we thought we wouldn't really lack with Aaron Cromer being our O-line coach, but it just hasn't gotten better. And hoping with, Mitch Morse potentially coming back, it'll improve a little bit. We've really struggled against a light box too, which is 6 defenders or less in the box. And I think the Ravens like to run a lot of that. So hopefully we could take advantage of it.
Yeah, to finish up on some of the stats and talking about Mark Andrews. So he's the leading receiver. He's got 31 targets, 22 catches, 245 yards, and 3 touchdowns. So 31 targets. Compare that to Diggs. Diggs has 35 targets for 27 catches for 344 yards and 4 touchdowns. You'd expect Diggs to have more yardage. He's a faster, speedier receiver, but you can just see how much they rely on Andrews because Diggs is our main guy. And obviously, Andrews is theirs as well. So we got Red, White, and Bills out there saying we will win in the trenches and win
Sean,
the game.
Love you, man.
And then we have Jules Marie. Good to see you, Jules. Going to watch the game in the house with my Graham. Got all the gear and matching earrings. All right, let's go,
that's
Jules.
Nice. All
Say
right.
hi to Graham for us, and prayers are with her that she's doing okay. And it's great that you guys. I know she goes there almost every game, I believe, with her grandma. So that's
awesome. Nice.
So here's where we get into your key matchups, Jake. Key matchups that you think are going to have a big impact on this game, and then I want you to give us the path to victory for both the Bills and, of course, the Ravens.
Yeah, so I would say the key matchups are definitely our receivers against their corners. And again, on paper, they have the best secondary in the NFL, but it just hasn't been the case this year. And again, I think that really comes down to them just not having a pass rush. So they're going to get exploited a little bit. And I think Stephon Diggs is going to have himself a day today. He's a chippy receiver. He's good on the short passes. He can stretch the field when he needs to. So I feel like he's going to have a monster day. And I know that's kind of like an easy way out there, but I really expect him to go at it a little bit. And he's chippy as hell. And if Marcus Peters is lined up on him, I expect there to be a little bit of John going on. So it'll be fun to watch. So that's definitely one of them. I think another one too is obviously our interior D-line versus their O-line, because as I mentioned before, I think we'll be good on the contained. We have the athleticism outside to keep Lamar contained and not, too far outside the pocket, force him to run inside if he's going to run the football. So those interior guys, whoever's playing interior wise, Tim Settle, it should be, and DeQuan Jones most likely. Maybe Ed Oliver plays. If he does, that's huge for us. But taking advantage of those interior gaps like that, not allowing those runs up the middle, I think that's monstrous for us. So if we can figure that out, I think we'll be good to go.
All right. And then what about the Ravens' path to victory?
Yeah. So I would say for the Ravens, target Mark Andrews, try to get him involved early. Again, we don't really know who's going to be covering him, whether it's Taron Johnson, whether they bring in Saran Neal like we did against Travis Kelce last year in the regular season, or if we use a guy like Matt Milano or even Terrell Bernard. I haven't been super impressed with Terrell Bernard's coverage skills, but he is a rookie. It's a different game at this level. So, yeah, I think Mark Andrews, of course, and if we don't have a pass rush, then they can stretch the field a little bit. And we have some younger corners out there. Dane Jackson might not be fully healthy, but maybe good enough to play. So they got some speed out there. So Devin Duvernay and Rashad Bateman, those guys, might have a big day too.
Yeah, so for me, the key matchup again is I'm going to echo a lot of what you said here. I'm going to watch who's ever guarding Andrews, because for me, we have to take. For me, I'm going to go. I'm going to play Bill Belichick right now. Bill Belichick always picks one guy that he takes out of the game, right? And other than Lamar, but I'm going to take away his biggest target, which is Mark Andrews. I'm going to do everything I can, whether that's Milano watching him, maybe a little help with Taron Johnson, who I love in this game, by the way. It's been a while. Taron Johnson just he gets it done. We don't talk about him enough, I don't think, right? He's the best corner we have on the field right now, and he plays nickel for us. But he does so much more.
He's our leading tackler, too.
I mean, he's incredible.
And
he made... Let's not forget, a couple years ago, he made that huge play that turned that game around in the playoffs against the Ravens. Pick six for 100 and something yards. It was intercepted in the end zone. That's why he's on the thumb today. And I expect him to step up again. So, Spy Lamar. And what about this? What do you think about Spy Lamar with Edmonds? Have Edmonds watching him a little bit.
It scares me a little bit, but I can see it. I can definitely see it. I think it's not a bad idea.
He's the fastest of our linebackers, so maybe something there. And again, he's going to be busy. I mean, he's going to be busy, but I think Edmonds is the guy if we're going to do that at all. For the Bills, we got to run the ball, Jake. We got to run the ball. Let me tell you something. I watched the game against the Bengals and Miami. Bengals didn't really kill it on the ground, Jake, but they kept trying to run at least. They kept making Miami respect the fact that they were trying to run. We abandon it. It seems like we get it going early and then it's completely out the window. And with the rain today, we've got to get more runs in. We just got to. And I know a lot of us, now look, I'm not saying handoff stuffed. at least throw a run in there every series, a couple of them, as a matter of fact, and take the pressure off of Josh. We got to do that, especially if it's raining today, and just make them respect, and then Josh be Josh and take advantage of that secondary. Right now, that secondary is on the heel. Marcus Peters is just getting healthy again. Let's take advantage of them while they're still mending. You've seen the numbers that I put up earlier. Huge numbers they're giving up, and I'll tell you what, Mac Jones, until he threw that interception in the end zone, that game was a lot closer. I mean, it was just barely.
Yeah, it was close.
Was it, 8 or 9 point game, but Mac Jones had them going, had them driving. He did pretty well in that game, but towards the end, he threw 3 picks, one of them being in the end zone. So let's take advantage of that secondary. I agree with you. Diggs have a big game, and So what do we got there? From Ravens.
So Ravens 75. Hey, all respect to you as well, sir. Thank you for joining, and feel free to subscribe. We have some Ravens fans that are a part of this channel as well.
Yes,
so I don't know if you caught it early on. We have a bet going on. So if the Bills lose, we have to wear Ravens gear, and if the Ravens win, or if the Bills win, then they have to wear Bills stuff. So going to be pretty interesting. And Ravens 75. If that's a nod to John Ogden, I think he's the best tackle to ever play the game. So cheers to you, my friend, and God bless you. And Ben coming in hot, saying Tim Settle with 2 sacks. I freaking love it, Ben. Thanks, brother. I appreciate it, and I think it's going to happen. I like that. Let's bet the over on 1.5 sacks today for Tim Settle.
Going back to Ravens 75, I want to say this because, yes, this is a big game, but it is just week 4. And, Jake, my dad, when we did our schedule predictions, my dad had us going 1-3 to start the season.
Yeah,
I don't know if you remember that.
I do remember that.
We were off to a 1-3 start, but then we ended up 12-5. If we were to end up 12-5, I'd be extremely happy, and that probably would put us in contention for the number 1 seed if that happens.
Yeah, looking at how the records are right now, it might, because there are just so many teams. I feel like. And that's the thing with the NFL this year. I feel like the teams are so far apart in terms of how good they actually are. Like, you have the elite teams. There's only like a few. And then everyone else is just Like, they're not even in the middle. Like, they're just bad. It's either you're really good or really bad. I don't see any in between there. So it is really interesting to see how it pans out. How about the Jaguars? That's my surprise team in the AFC.
Well, they kind of told us something last year. They knocked off Giants. They knocked off the Bills. They knocked off the Dolphins last year, and then they knocked the Colts out at the end of the season.
Yeah.
I think that was their only 3 wins, but they were against Giants, and here they are taking that momentum into this year and looking great. So, again, it is week 4. I know a lot of folks were super disappointed in the Miami game. We were we were extremely disappointed. But settle down if we, we're going to do our predictions here. But if, and I'm saying, well, if we were to lose, I do think either of these teams, honestly, could do something similar that the Dolphins did last year. After the Dolphins lost to us on Halloween, they went out and won 8 of their last 9 games. And as we get healthier, we're going to be able to do something like that. And remember, we always said at the beginning of the season, our first 7 games of the year are extremely hard. Extremely hard. I mean, would it surprise you, Jake, if looking at those first 7 games, if we were just 4-3? Would it have surprised you?
I don't think it would, actually. I mean, we have some tough opponents on the schedule and teams that have already been there, teams that have won Super Bowls. So, yeah, I mean, it's really time to show up here. And if we start losing some games down the stretch, I know Sean McDermott, as Sean mentioned in our last postgame show, Sean from Red, White, and Bills, he was on, and he was saying how Sean McDermott was talking about, hey, we want to rest this guy up, get him ready for January. Well, there may not be January if we keep this up. And this is something not to take lightly. It's 1 week at a time. I think this team is ready. They are ready to go out and show out and put last week behind them for sure. So I know they're going to be good to go, and I'm feeling good about this one, Mike. I really am.
All right. And then we got Goman saying revenge now. Oh, I got it. So
Odafe Owa, a.k.a. Jason Owa, who's a Penn State guy. So, obviously, I'm a big fan of his, but today I am not. So he's thinking he's going to terrorize Josh Allen, man. I don't know. I hope not. I hope our tackles can figure it out. Our right tackle spot has been very questionable lately, especially with Spencer Brown. You have David Questenberry. Those guys really struggled last week, and I don't think Spencer Brown is totally up to snuff. He still is, he's not necessarily in football shape. That's what I'm seeing, at least. Yeah. So it'll be really interesting to see what happens there. But, yeah, let's hope not. But, hey, may the best man win.
So let's get into it now. Let's get into these score predictions. I'll start with you, Jake, and everyone in the channel would love to hear your score predictions for this game.
Yeah, so, we're going to have a little bit of rain, as we mentioned, Mike, and everyone's probably thinking it's going to be a ground and pound type game. I think it's going to be the total opposite. I think these corners, they're going to be struggling. It's going to be slipping and sliding a little bit out there, and Josh is going to sling the rock a little bit. So I'm feeling like it's going to be a higher scoring game. Even so, my prediction, close one, 31-25 Bills.
All right. I'm going to go, and I was looking at the injury report here. So some unfortunate news. Ed Oliver is once again out. He will not play.
God, that hurts.
So let's see here. Let me just go through the outs for the Bills. There's some positive here. So Oliver's out. Sweeney's out. Phillips out. Murray's out. Kumaro, Benford, and Rhodes, which we already knew the others. We just didn't know Oliver. To me, I'm looking at this. That means that Jordan Poyer is in.
That's huge.
He's at least active, because this is typically giving us all the folks that are in or out. So he's at least active. And also Mitch Morse, which is huge for us as well. So that's good news there on the Baltimore side, because this is important as well. Okay, so this is big for them. Big. Ronnie Stanley is out.
Ooh, go, man.
So that means
Daniel Falele.
Yeah, you have Makari and Stanley both out. They're starting left tackles. Somebody's going to eat on that side. Yeah. Somebody's going to have a huge day. And also Justin Houston out. Kenyon Drake out. And other folks that aren't really starters there. So some big, on both sides of the ball, some big names, right? And so there you go. We talked about it earlier. If Fatula Lele. I mean, talk to me about that name. I struggle with the names. But
Daniel Falele.
That guy is huge. What'd you say he was? Is 380?
6'8", 380.
Okay. He's big, great, but he can't move. He looked awkward as hell last week against New England, and they took advantage of it. Like I said earlier, they cleaned it up a little bit. I think we're going to be able to take advantage of that. At least they're going to have to make adjustments. They're not going to know whether it's Miller or Russo on that side. And let's not forget the other guys. We have Mr. Boogie Basham, Epinesa, who's been a little quiet. By the way, I want to ask you about Epinesa. How do you think he's doing this year? Because
I think he's playing very well.
Is he? Okay. Seems a little quiet to me.
So it's the little things that he does. And actually, to echo that, I think Boogie Basham has played unbelievable football this year. Me and Sean, we did a breakdown from Red, White, and Bills. If you guys have a chance, go take a look at that. We reviewed a little bit of the Dolphins film last week. And the stuff that Boogie Basham is doing, it's not going to reflect on a stat sheet necessarily, but he ran this stunt play, and it helped Von Miller actually tip this pass. And I mean, it was just the stuff that he has been doing. He offers you so many. I guess he offers a ton of value because he could play interior, he could play outside. He always gets his hands up. He always seems to make a play or be the guy that allows another player to make a play. So he's been tremendous this year, and I'm super happy with his development. I think he is a steal. Like, we got him in the second round. He's a first-round talent. So pretty awesome there.
So let me ask Goman, how much of a concern is it that Falele is going to be starting? It's going to be his first NFL start. He's a rookie. He looked terrible last week. Tell me, what's your concern there with Von Miller? I mean, he's got the Bills losing, what is the big numbers there? He's got 42. Oh, no, that's not him. Where is he? 42-20. He's got Lamar going off for 5 touchdowns. So double team Diggs and heavy blitzing on Josh Forster.
I hope they do, because guess what? The underneath's going to be wide open all day. Devin Singletary had 9 catches last week, and they ran cover 0 all week against us, and I think, or all day against us last week. And Josh did a really good job of just taking what the defense gave him. He can't make those errant throws, the throws in the dirt. Obviously, the pressure does hurt a little bit, but I thought he was excellent under the blitz like that. I thought under pressure, he did a great job. So I hope they do that.
So for me, my score prediction with the rain expected, I think it's a little bit of a sloppy game. I hope not, but I think the Bills pull it out, and I'm going to go with a 27-24 Bills victory. Let's break this streak of losing 7 one-score games. This is the day to do it.
We got to win a close one.
Yeah, we have to. So that's the score. Not to mention best name in football, BB.
Boogie Basham.
Yeah, Boogie does have a great name for sure. So all good stuff. I got to tell you, my biggest dilemma is not only that we have a bet with Chris and Rick, but most of you who watch this channel know that my son, my 10-year-old, his first favorite team is the Ravens. His second favorite team is the Bills. And we've been talking all week. We're going to watch the game together. We have a little fun with it. He's like, "Dad, you're not my dad today," and I'm like, "You're not my son today." I mean,
That's amazing.
You're wearing another team's. You're wearing another team's jersey. I'm not cool with that. And I'll tell you why he likes the Ravens. Okay, I have to blame. It's all about Madden football. When Lamar Jackson was on the cover a few years back, I forget how many years ago it was, he started playing Madden football, and Lamar Jackson was unstoppable. And I'm sure he still is unstoppable in Madden, but that became why the Ravens. Now, I've worked hard as a proud Buffalo Bills fan for many, many years to get him to be at least the Bills are number 2. But I will say this about my son, Jake. I've taken him to a Ravens game against the Rams a few years back. I think it was Thursday Night Football, and they won, so he got to see his Ravens win in person. But then I've taken him to 2 Bills games. I took him last year on October 31st, and I took him the opening day against the Rams here in SoFi Stadium in LA. And that little kid was wearing his Diggs hat. I'm sorry, not Diggs, but his Bills hat signed by Isaiah McKenzie. Remember, you were there when he got that signed. And then he was wearing his Diggs jersey. And I put shorts out all over the place. This kid you would not know it. I mean, his voice was hoarse by the end of the game. Let's go Buffalo. Let's drop 30. He's the hugest supporter, except for when the Bills are playing the Raiders. So this is going to be interesting. I don't know what the turnout's going to be, but I'm a little worried, a little concerned. I told my wife she may need to leave the house for about 4 hours because something's going to go down.
There's going to be some tears, maybe a few curse words. I don't know, Mike, but it sounds like it's going to get heated in that house.
Yeah, Uncle Jay, I'm working on it. And maybe, I asked them back in 2020 when we beat him in the playoffs, it was the same thing, right? It was both our teams going against each other. And he took the stance. He's like, "Look, Dad, if either the Bills or the Ravens, we should be happy because and remember, he's not listening. I hope he's not outside the door. I have to pretend that the Ravens are my second favorite team for him." But his take was, "Hey, Dad, if one of the teams wins, we should be okay with that, right? Because it's our top 2 favorite teams." And I was like, sure. Because my son, he's like me as a kid. When his teams lose, there are tears that get shed. And I was that guy when I was a little boy. And Jake, I'm pretty sure you were probably that type of guy as well. You
That's
might
all I
still,
lived my
you might
entire
still do
childhood.
it.
Yeah.
So, Yeah, it's super painful for him when his team loses. So I hope he takes the same stance. But I asked him, and he said, "No, Dad, not this time. I'm going to be super upset if my team loses." And he's asking me all kinds of questions. He said, "Dad, if I ever got, because he wants to play football, if I ever got drafted by the Kansas City Chiefs and I was their quarterback, would you cheer for me?" I said, "Dude, I'd be your biggest fan until the day you came and played Buffalo." And then then if they were interviewing me, I'd say, "I don't know you." I would like
That's
disown
awesome. I
you.
love that.
I've threatened to have him exchange with a fan, families in Baltimore. I said, "Hey, I'm sure there's a family in Baltimore who has a son or daughter that's a Bills fan. We'll do a swap. We'll just." So I threatened him with that as well.
Yeah.
And then he always like, "Dad, are you serious about that?" I'm like, "No, buddy, I'm just kidding about that." But yeah, Jake was that guy last week. Yeah,
I was. Hey, Zach, welcome to it, baby.
Yeah, I think they all were. I think we all were actually.
Yeah, he was there with me.
Yeah. Oh, was he?
By the way, I got a funny story. I might as well
Yeah.
talk about this. So
Yes.
this is actually something that came up yesterday. I was talking about that benefit that I did, right? So a couple of the guys that went with us to Miami, well, they went down themselves early, and it was my brother-in-law's brother-in-law. So it was his brother-in-law and some of his buddies. They went down there. We met up with them. So my brother-in-law, Zach, kind of resembles Mitch Morse a little bit. So, not quite as big, but same, very similar face, no hair. They're bald up top. And so we were out at a bar, and we have another buddy who looks nothing like him, but he's a little tanner and whatnot. And we were saying that he was Isaiah McKenzie, and my brother-in-law was Mitch Morse. There was these older women. They're like, "Oh my gosh, you guys are playing tomorrow." And we're like, "Yep." So we just went with it. We roll with the story the whole time. And our one buddy, Brandon, had to leave. His stomach wasn't feeling great. So the girls were asking, they're like, "Where's he going?" And I said, "Oh, he's playing in the game tomorrow." So, and then it's funny because Mitch Morse didn't play in the game.
Right.
And, we were out drinking all night. So we could credit that, to the drinking instead of not being actually injured. So it's pretty funny. But anyways, we were at that Miami game last week. It was tough. It was a tough loss. It's everything you want in a football game, but just unfortunate. I think it's time to get some revenge this week.
Yeah, Jake, let's not forget that people have mistaken you or think you look like Josh Allen. So here you are now. If you're wearing your jersey, you should have been wearing 17. It could be Josh, Mitch, and Isaiah McKenzie out at the bar.
Oh, I love it.
Man.
Josh Allen's family was staying so they were staying at the Margaritaville there, and they ran into those guys that we were hanging out with, and they were talking, just saying how awesome they were, so down to earth. I mean, he is the perfect quarterback for Buffalo. He's everything Buffalo, and his family is the same way, so it's pretty cool to see. But just to give a couple more shout-outs here, we got my buddy Nick Smalter. Thanks for joining, man.
Yeah,
great to see you. And Uncle Jay saying again, I'm that guy. I'm that guy even at high school games. Yeah, I would tend to agree with that. I haven't been to a high school game in a minute, but I definitely would be that guy.
So I see a lot of folks out in the channel. I greatly appreciate it. If you're new to the channel, please like, comment, and drop a nickel on that subscribe button for us. We welcome all fans. I love seeing some Raven fans out here. If Chris and Rick weren't at the game, these are guys that do our fantasy football show.
They'd be chirping us so hard.
They'd be on the show. They'd actually be on the show with us today. Unfortunately, they're at the game. So we're actually going to get some real-time notifications from them, I would expect. So if you're not in our Discord channel, I think Jake mentioned it earlier, join our Discord because Rick will be posting in there live from Baltimore. So that should be fun. Closing thoughts, Jake. I mean, we're getting close. We're less than 45 minutes away. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, well, it's funny you mentioned that, man, because James Cook, there were a couple plays last week where he looked good. There was a quick slant route, and boy, he could have almost taken that to the house. Had Josh thrown it like a second later, he had an opening. Actually, a second earlier, I'm sorry. He had an opening. He would have taken it to the house. So, I actually look to see some involvement from him. So that'll be interesting how we utilize the running backs if we go Devin Singletary for the most part, or if we involve James Cook a little bit more, or how we utilize Zach Moss, because we seem to just love Zach Moss. He had a big run last game too, 43-yard run.
Yep.
And kind of curious. It would be nice to have Thurm out there, though, I got to say.
Let's not forget it. We have a little bet. We talk about this all the time. I mean, Jake said that James Cook would have more total yardage than Singletary. Singletary's my guy. So we're, next week, I think maybe in post game, I'll have the numbers so that we can kind of see how that's tracking. I know right now Singletary has the lead. But speaking of Thomas, so I saw somebody post on social media, somehow they ran into Thurman. He's on his way to Baltimore, apparently, to the game. And they met him at the airport. They showed a picture of him, and I responded, Thurman looks good. I said, man, Thurman looks like he can still play. Let's get him out there.
Yeah.
We definitely need our run game to step it up, as I already mentioned.
If we could have anyone that's even a shell of Thurman, that would be great. And it's crazy because the Bills really never struggled in the running game. I mean, over my entire lifetime, we've always had a featured back, whether it was Travis Henry, Willis McGahee, Marshawn Lynch, Fred Jackson, CJ Spiller for 1 year. Then we had Shady. So we've always had someone that was really good, a 1,000-yard back. We haven't had a 1,000-yard rusher since Shady did it in 2016. So it's been a minute. It's pretty crazy.
All right. Well, closing thoughts for me is just thanks everyone again. We greatly appreciate it. We'll see. We'll be back here for a post-game show. This is the first time, believe it or not, week 4, Jake. And we've always had our shows on Sundays, right? Right before the game, right after the game. And with both of us, I was at the first game of the year. You were at the last 2. We haven't been able to do that. So this is the first time we're going to be able to. So we'll be back on with the post-game at around 2 p.m. Western time, and that's 5 p.m.
5
your
p.m.
guys,
here.
so 5 p.m. on the East Coast. So we'll see you then. Let's go. This should be an exciting game, and go Bills, go Bills!
Go
I can't
Bills,
wait
baby.
for this. Wish
Heck
me
yeah.
luck. Wish me luck with my boy.
Hey,
my
Mike M. Congratulations,
Mike
brother!
M. There he
You
is.
won the ticket giveaway. Happy to have you.
Hopefully, you already heard, Mike. If you haven't, you won, man.
Pretty awesome. All right, guys.
All right. Take care, everybody. We'll talk to you later. Let's go.
Hey, go Bills.